It boils down to this one. Do the next right thing when life feels overwhelming. It's rarely because of the one big thing. It's usually because of the pile of small things, the unanswered emails, the bills stacking up, the conversations you've been avoiding, the goals you've been putting off. All of it builds into this heavy weight, and when you're standing under that weight, the question you keep asking yourself is, where do I even start? Here's the answer. You don't have to solve it all today. You don't have to have the 10-step plan figured out. You just have to do the next right thing. Think about it like this. If you're driving at night, your headlights don't light up the whole highway. They only show you a couple 100 feet ahead. But that's all you need. As long as you keep moving forward, those few 100 feet are enough to get you across the country. Life works the same way. You don't need the whole map. You don't need every answer. You just need to know the very next step you can take that's right. Not perfect, not impressive, not dramatic. Just right. The next right thing might be small. It might be sending that one email. It might be cleaning up your room. It might be making that phone call you've been dreading. It might be getting out of bed when your mind is screaming to stay under the covers. Those small choices are powerful because they break the paralysis of overthinking. See, when we try to tackle everything at once, we shut down. The mountain feels too tall, so we don't even try. But if you just focus on the next step, suddenly the mountain shrinks. You don't climb a mountain in one leap. You climb it step by step, one decision at a time. And here's the truth. The next right thing is almost always obvious. Deep down, you already know what it is. We usually don't get stuck because we don't know the answer. We get stuck because we don't like the answer. We don't like that the right thing is uncomfortable or inconvenient or takes humility. But that's where progress happens. That's where change begins. When you choose to do the next right thing even when it's hard, even when it's unglamorous, even when no one's cheering for you, that's when your life starts shifting. Let me put it this way. The big picture is built out of small pixels. Each pixel seems insignificant on its own, but together they create the image. Your life works the same. The next right thing might feel small, but stacked over time, it becomes the picture of your future. You don't need to worry about step 50. You don't even need to worry about step 5. Just focus on step 1. Do that faithfully, then repeat. Over time, you'll look back and realize you've traveled further than you thought possible. And here's the freedom in this. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be faithful to the next step. If you stumble, get up and do the next right thing again. If you make a wrong choice, own it, learn from it, and then take the next right step. You're never too far gone, never too behind, never too stuck to reset. When you're overwhelmed, when you're unsure, when life feels too complicated, remember this, strip it all back down, ask yourself, what's the next right thing I can do right now? Then do it. And when you do that consistently, one choice at a time, you'll find yourself in places you once thought were impossible. Because progress isn't made by grand leaps, it's made by steady steps. So let's stop overthinking. Stop waiting for perfect. Stop waiting for every detail to line up. Life isn't asking you to solve everything today. It's simply asking you to take the next right step. And that is what it boils down to. 2. Discipline over motivation. Motivation is exciting. It feels like fuel. It's the spark that makes you want to start something new. A new diet, a new workout, a new project, a new routine. Motivation is that Monday morning when you wake up and say, "This is it. I'm ready. Let's go." But here's the problem. Motivation doesn't last. It's emotional. It's unpredictable. It's like the weather. Some days it's sunny, some days it's raining, and you have no control over when it shows up. Discipline, though, that's different. Discipline is steady. Discipline doesn't care if it's raining. Discipline doesn't care if you're tired. Discipline doesn't care if you feel like it. Discipline shows up when motivation is nowhere to be found. That's why the people who succeed in the long run aren't the ones who were the most motivated. They're the ones who built discipline. Think about this. Anyone can go to the gym when they're motivated. Anyone can work late into the night when they're excited about a new idea. Anyone can save money when they feel inspired about their future. But what about the days when you're tired, when you're discouraged? When you don't feel like it, that's where most people stop. Discipline is what keeps you moving when motivation disappears. Motivation says, I feel like it. Discipline says, I'll do it anyway. Motivation says, this is exciting. Discipline says, this is necessary. Motivation says, I want to. Discipline says, I committed to. And here's the thing, when you build discipline, motivation actually comes back more often, because progress creates motivation. When you see results, when you notice that you're stronger, healthier, more focused, that fuels motivation. But it was discipline that carried you to that point. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wake up every morning motivated to brush your teeth. You don't look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm so inspired today to pick up this toothbrush. No. You do it because it's discipline, it's non-negotiable, and because you've built that habit, your health benefits for years. The same is true for your goals. The breakthrough isn't in waiting for motivation to strike, it's in building habits that work even when motivation is gone. Now, discipline doesn't mean you have to be harsh with yourself. Discipline isn't punishment. Discipline is freedom, because when you build discipline, you're no longer a slave to your feelings. You don't have to wait until you feel good to do good. Discipline gives you stability in a world full of ups and downs. It's like a lighthouse. Storms will come, waves will crash, motivation will rise and fall, but discipline stands tall, guiding you forward no matter what. Here's the practical side. You don't build discipline overnight. You don't suddenly wake up with iron willpower. Discipline is built the same way a muscle is built. Small, consistent reps over time. Start with one thing. Not 10, not 5, just one. Maybe it's committing to walking for 10 minutes every morning. Maybe it's setting your alarm and actually getting up the first time it rings. Maybe it's reading for 5 minutes before bed instead of scrolling your phone. It doesn't matter how small it is. What matters is that you keep the promise to yourself, because every time you do, you're telling yourself, I can trust me, and that self-trust is the foundation of discipline. And once you build that discipline in one area, it starts to spill over into other areas of your life. If you can be disciplined with your mornings, you'll start being disciplined with your finances. If you can be disciplined with your workouts, you'll start being disciplined in your relationships. It's all connected. Motivation will always be inconsistent. You can't depend on it, but discipline, that's yours to build, yours to strengthen, yours to carry. So when you don't feel like showing up, show up anyway. When the excitement fades, stay committed. When the motivation is gone, lean into discipline. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't boil down to how motivated you felt. It boils down to what you did when you didn't feel like it. And that's the difference between wishing for change and living in it. 3. Your response is your power. Life is full of things you can't control. You can't control the weather. You can't control traffic. You can't control how people treat you, what they think of you, or the words they choose to say. You can't control unexpected problems, setbacks, or disappointments. And when you focus on all the things you can't control, you feel powerless. But here's the truth. Power isn't found in control. Power is found in response. Your response is your power. You might not control the storm, but you control whether you stand in it or seek shelter. You might not control how someone talks to you, but you control how you talk back. You might not control whether life hits you with setbacks, but you control whether you quit or keep going. That's where your strength lies, in the space between what happens to you and what you choose to do next. Here's an example. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. That moment gives you two choices. You can explode with anger, let it ruin your whole day, and carry that frustration into every conversation you have afterward. Or you can take a deep breath, let it go, and move on with peace. The situation is the same. The difference is your response, and your response changes everything. Think about the people you admire most. Leaders, mentors, friends who seem steady even when life gets tough. What makes them stand out isn't that they have easier lives, it's that they've learned how to master their response. Instead of reacting out of emotion, they respond with clarity. Instead of letting bitterness take root, they choose patience. Instead of letting fear paralyze them, they choose courage. And the good news is, you can do the same. See, we often give away our power without realizing it. We hand it over to the rude customer, the critical boss, the disappointing news, the unexpected problem. We let circumstances decide our mood. We let people dictate our peace. But when you remember that your response is your choice, you take that power back. It doesn't mean you ignore problems. It doesn't mean you don't feel hurt, anger, or frustration. Those emotions are real, and you're human. But feeling an emotion doesn't mean you have to be controlled by it. You can feel frustration without letting it turn into rage. You can feel disappointment without letting it turn into despair. You can feel fear without letting it stop you. That's the difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is instant, it's emotional, raw, and often regrettable. A response is intentional, it's thoughtful, steady, and powerful. Your response sets the tone for your life. If you want peace, respond with patience. If you want respect, respond with integrity. If you want growth, respond with resilience. Now, here's something practical. You won't always get it right. You'll lose your temper sometimes. You'll react when you should have responded. You'll look back and think, I could have handled that better. That's okay. The power of response also means you get to choose again. You can apologize, you can reset, you can grow, and the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Like building a muscle, your ability to respond instead of react grows stronger every time you use it. Here's the question I want you to start asking yourself. What do I want to create with my response? Because your response is creative. It shapes your relationships, it shapes your opportunities, it shapes your future. If you respond with bitterness, you create distance. If you respond with kindness, you create connection. If you respond with courage, you create progress. If you respond with discipline, you create results. Your life is a series of responses stacked on top of each other. And when you look back, you'll see that it wasn't the events that defined you. It was how you responded to them. So the next time you face something hard, remember, you don't control everything, but you do control something. You control you, and that control, that's not small, that's everything, because no one can take away your choice of how to respond. Your response is your power, and when you choose it wisely, you'll discover a strength inside you that nothing on the outside can break. 4. Consistency beats intensity. We love big moments. We love the dramatic story of someone who transformed their life overnight. We love the before and after pictures, the one-time breakthrough, the massive leap. That's intensity, and intensity feels exciting. But here's the truth, intensity fades. It's not the big once in a while effort that changes your life. It's the small, steady, day-after-day decisions. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Think about working out. Anyone can go to the gym for 3 hours once. But what matters isn't that single workout. It's showing up 3 or 4 times a week, week after week. That's where strength is built. That's where transformation happens. It's the same with money. Anyone can save a big chunk once, but financial freedom comes from consistent, small savings stacked over years. The same with relationships. You don't win trust or love through one big gesture. You build it by showing up consistently with respect, kindness, and honesty. Consistency is where the real change happens. Here's why consistency wins. Intensity relies on emotion. It's fueled by motivation and excitement. But as we already know, motivation comes and goes. Intensity is like a sparkler. It burns bright, but it burns out fast. Consistency, though, is like a candle. It might not be flashy, but it keeps burning. It lights the way slowly, steadily, quietly, and over time it outlasts every spark. The problem is, we underestimate consistency because it feels small. It doesn't feel dramatic. Reading 10 pages of a book a day doesn't feel like much. Walking for 15 minutes a day doesn't feel like much. Setting aside a little money each week doesn't feel like much, but small things compound. 10 pages a day becomes dozens of books in a year. 15 minutes of walking becomes a healthier body and a clearer mind. Small, consistent savings become financial security. Here's the danger: because consistency feels small, we dismiss it. We say that won't make a difference, so we do nothing, but it's not the size of the step that matters, it's the repetition. One drop of water doesn't shape a rock, but drop after drop after drop over time will carve it. And here's the freedom in this: you don't need to do everything all at once. You don't need to overhaul your entire life tomorrow. You just need to do one small thing, and keep doing it. The key is building rhythms instead of relying on bursts. Bursts will exhaust you, rhythms will sustain you. Let's make it practical. If you want to get healthier, don't start with an extreme diet and a 7-day workout challenge. Start with a simple, consistent habit. Drink more water, go for a daily walk, cut out one unhealthy snack. If you want to grow in knowledge, don't commit to reading 5 books this week. Commit to reading a few pages a day. If you want to improve relationships, don't think you need to plan elaborate trips or write dramatic letters. Start with consistent, small check-ins, a text, a call, an intentional conversation. Over time, consistency creates trust. Trust in yourself, because you learn that you can keep promises to yourself. Trust from others, because they see that you show up not just once, but continually. Now, let's be honest. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's not going to get applause. Nobody cheers when you choose to wake up early again. Nobody throws a party when you save another $20. But here's the secret: success doesn't come from applause. It comes from habits, and habits are built through consistency. Intensity is exciting. Consistency is effective. And here's the mindset shift: consistency is more about identity than effort. It's not about doing something once. It's about being someone over time. When you consistently show up as the kind of person you want to be, you eventually become that person. Consistency is proof of commitment. Anyone can sprint once. Few can walk faithfully every day. But the finish line isn't won by sprinters who quit. It's won by steady walkers who didn't. So don't chase intensity. Build consistency. Don't burn bright for a moment. Burn steady for a lifetime. Because in the end, it doesn't boil down to how hard you tried one time. It boils down to how many times you chose to show up, again and again. And that's what creates the life you want. 5. Be someone you respect. At the end of the day, you spend more time with yourself than anyone else. Long after the conversations end, long after the applause fades, long after the lights go out, you're left with you. The question is, do you respect the person staring back at you in the mirror? Respect isn't about titles, achievements, or the opinions of others. Respect is about trust. It's about whether you keep your word to yourself. It's about whether you live in alignment with your values. It's about whether you can look in the mirror and honestly say, I trust you, I respect you. Here's the truth most people underestimate. External respect always begins with internal respect. If you don't respect yourself, you'll chase validation from others. You'll compromise your values to get approval. You'll overextend yourself just to hear someone else say you're good enough. And no matter how much validation you get, it will never feel like enough, because deep down you don't believe it. But when you respect yourself, you stop chasing. You don't need everyone's applause, because you've already given yourself permission to stand tall. You don't bend to every opinion because your foundation is strong. You stop settling for less because you know your worth. So how do you build self-respect? The same way you build respect with anyone else. You keep your promises. Think about it. If someone in your life constantly breaks promises, do you respect them? Of course not. You might still care about them, but trust erodes. Now flip it. When someone keeps their word over and over, trust grows. Respect deepens, the same applies to you. Every time you set a goal and don't follow through, you chip away at self-respect. Every time you say, I'll start tomorrow, and then don't, you lose trust in yourself. But every time you keep your word, even in the smallest way, you build respect. It doesn't matter if the promise is big or small. Maybe it's as simple as, I'm going to wake up with my alarm instead of hitting snooze, or I'm going to drink more water today, or I'm going to call that person back like I said I would. These little commitments matter because they tell your mind, I can trust me. And when you trust yourself, everything changes. Your confidence grows because confidence isn't about arrogance, it's about trust. Your peace grows because you're no longer at war with your own integrity. Your relationships grow because you stop depending on others to fill the respect you should have for yourself. Now, let's be clear, respecting yourself doesn't mean being perfect. You're going to make mistakes, you're going to fall short, you're going to mess up, but here's the difference. When you respect yourself, you own it. You don't hide, you don't deny, you don't make excuses. You acknowledge it, you learn from it, and you realign with your values. Respect is about direction, not perfection. And here's something powerful. When you respect yourself, other people notice. They see the way you carry yourself. They see the way you honor your word. They see the way you set boundaries, and whether they agree with you or not, they sense the strength that comes from self-respect. But this isn't about impressing them. This is about knowing that when you put your head on the pillow at night, you're proud of the way you showed up. So let me ask you, are you keeping your promises to yourself? Are you living in alignment with the values you say matter to you? Are you being someone you would look up to, even if you weren't you? Because at the end of the day, when the noise quiets and the distractions fade, the question that matters most isn't, do they respect me? The question is, do I respect me? Be someone you respect. Because if you can build that, you'll walk taller, stand stronger, and leave freer than you ever imagined. 6. It's always your choice. Life is full of moments when it feels like everything is happening to you. The economy shifts, people disappoint you, circumstances change, opportunities vanish, problems arise out of nowhere, and in those moments, it's easy to feel powerless, like a leaf being blown around in a storm. But here's the truth. No matter what happens around you, there is one thing no one can take away: your choice. Every moment you have a choice: how you respond, where you focus, who you trust, what you believe. What you do next, that is your power, your control, your leverage, and the more you recognize that, the more freedom you'll feel, even in difficult circumstances. It's easy to think choice is only about big decisions, switching careers, ending a relationship, moving to a new city. But choice is actually built in the small moments, every single day. Do you get frustrated when someone cuts you off in traffic, or do you let it go? Do you complain about your situation, or do you take one small step to improve it? Do you dwell on the past, or do you focus on what you can do today? Each of these is a choice, and the sum of those choices becomes your life. Here's something most people don't realize: choosing isn't always easy. Often, the right choice is uncomfortable, it's inconvenient, it's scary, it requires patience, discipline, or courage, and sometimes the wrong choice is easier, it's tempting, it's convenient, it's comforting. But here's the difference. The right choice builds you up, the wrong choice tears you down. The remarkable thing is this: the choices you make define your reality far more than the circumstances themselves. Two people can face the exact same challenge, yet their lives will look completely different a year from now, simply because of the choices they made along the way. Let's be honest, sometimes we act like we have no choice. We blame our situation, our upbringing, other people, the economy, or luck. And while those things exist, they don't remove your power. You always have a choice. It may not be easy, it may not be immediate, but it's always there. And here's the beauty: once you accept that everything comes down to choice, everything shifts. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstance. You start feeling like the captain of your ship. You stop waiting for permission, validation, or perfect timing. You start acting because you know that no one else is going to steer your life for you. This is where courage meets freedom. Choosing wisely requires courage. Choosing your path, your response, and your actions requires stepping up and taking responsibility. But once you do, you gain freedom. The freedom to live life on your terms, the freedom to shape your future, the freedom to become the person you want to be. Here's how to practice it. Start small. Every day, ask yourself, what is my choice here? Even in minor situations, make a deliberate decision. Don't drift. Don't react mindlessly. Choose your words, your actions, your attitude, your focus. Over time, this builds a habit of conscious living, and when you face bigger decisions, it will feel natural. You'll already have trained yourself to recognize your power. You'll already know that you are not a passive observer. You are an active participant in your life. Remember, it's always your choice, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when everyone else seems to be going the other way. The person you will become, the life you will lead, the results you will see, they all boil down to this: the choices you make right now in this moment and every moment that follows. And that, in the end, is the ultimate truth of life. You are never powerless. You are never a victim. You are always endlessly, beautifully responsible and powerful, because it's always your choice. It boils down to this: after all the challenges, the setbacks, the moments of doubt, there's one truth that rises above everything else. Life always boils down to the choices you make, the steps you take, and the person you decide to be. It boils down to doing the next right thing, even when it's small and uncomfortable. It boils down to showing up with discipline when motivation fades. It boils down to responding with power instead of reacting in anger or fear. It boils down to consistency over intensity, proving day by day that steady effort creates lasting results. It boils down to being someone you respect, honoring your word, and living in alignment with your values. And it boils down to recognizing that no matter what happens around you, it's always your choice, your power, your responsibility, your freedom. Life will try to confuse you with distractions, overwhelm you with problems, and pull you in 100 directions. But when you strip away the noise, when you silence the chaos, it's always the same. The small decisions, repeated over time, build the life you want. The next right step creates momentum. Discipline carries you when excitement fades. Your response shapes your destiny. Steady, consistent effort compounds into success. Respect for yourself builds confidence and integrity. And every moment, the choice is yours, so stop overthinking. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop looking for permission or validation. Instead, take action, make the choice, take the step. Show up even when it's hard, trust yourself, honor your word. Build the life that aligns with who you truly want to be. Because at the end of the day, it all boils down to this: the life you live, the results you achieve, and the person you become are defined not by circumstance, not by luck, not by others, but by your choices, your discipline, your responses, your consistency, and your integrity. The path forward is simple, even if it's not easy. Do the next right thing, stay disciplined, respond with power, show up consistently, be someone you respect, and remember, it's always your choice. That is where your power lies. That is where your freedom begins. That is where your life transforms, and that is what it truly boils down to.